thoughtful ideas and suggestions for guests and topics.
Great events, programs, and student activities.
All the factors are useful.
Welcome to this week's segment of Dialogue Houston. I'm your host, Lawrence Payne. To our regular viewing audience, welcome. To those joining us perhaps here for the first time for ACC's TV Dialogue Houston, we're here now every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 a.m. and again at 6 p.m., Saturday afternoons at 3 p.m. As always, at the top of the hour, let me thank you for your thoughtful calls, emails, and text messages concerning previous shows we've aired here on ACC's TV, but particularly your great ideas for topics and guests and subject matters to be covered on upcoming segments of Dialogue Houston. For after all, this is your community affairs, public affairs show here on ACC TV, now proudly in its 27th season. We have a great show planned for you today. We're going to look at an aspect of organization in Houston that I want you to know about. It is very dear to my heart as a board member and as we're now working on a special project there. It is one that has been with us for a while. And some of you old timers will remember it by a different name, and then we'll talk about that in the new name. But it's also one that plays a very important role in society today, in Houston today. It did so in a great way pre-COVID-19, and now even in a greater way in the middle of this pandemic. That is the Institute for Spirituality and Health. And joining me is Leah Adams, from the Institute of Spirituality and Health, who is going to tell us about all the programs they do. But first of all, we just want to say hello and welcome to Leah. Great to have you here. And we're just going to jump in and have you tell us a little bit about the Institute and its mission.
Thank you, Larry. I appreciate the opportunity to spend this time with you, my friend and colleague and teacher. We appreciate the opportunity to talk about the Institute for Spirituality and Health at the Texas Medical Center. As you mentioned, ISH is a 65-year-old independent interfaith public charity. Our mission is to enhance well-being by exploring the relationship between spirituality and health. So we focus on education, research, and services.
And those three pillars are very important. By the way, I mentioned the previous, going back to all of us old timers. You may remember it as the Institute of Religion, the Texas Medical Center. And our dearly recently departed great friend, Dr. Rabbi Karf, had so much to do with that. I just want to hold his name up here for a moment and say again how much we miss him, how much we loved him, and what a great leader and mentor and friend he was to me and to many, many others in our community. And I just had to let that moment pass to lift him up. So the Institute's three pillars are, as Leah mentioned, education, research, and actually the direct service is fairly new. So I'm just going to kind of let her walk through each one of the pillars and tell her what we do under each one of those. Leah?
And thank you for mentioning Rabbi Karf. We, of course, dearly miss him. And he was, as you said, instrumental in promoting equity, compassion, and truly expanding the Institute to include all faith traditions. And so we truly are an interfaith organization. And so we'll start with education. That's our primary focus. Our Psychotherapy and Faith Conference is in its 29th year this year, where we invite clergy from all faith traditions and clinicians, psychotherapists, those who have direct engagement with patient care. And the topics, of course, have ranged over the past 29 years and are just more and more rich. This year we are pivoting to a virtual conference, as you can imagine, as we are with our nursing conference, which is in its, I believe, 27th year this year. So we have some well-established conferences with the primary focus on providing education to those who are going to work in healthcare, who currently work in healthcare, and to invite them to consider the spiritual aspects of health and healing.
And those two conferences over the years have grown and grown and grown and attract such a great cross-section of Houstonians, not only those in the medical profession and the medical center, but also others who are involved in like and similar endeavors and work. and have been such a rich source of continuing education, of growth and development. And I've always enjoyed attending, but always enjoy hearing the people's stories who do come and do it and who attend about the work they're involved in, about the caring, loving nature of being that servant, of being that helper, of being that provider. And sometimes in the provider community, particularly in healthcare, we miss that opportunity to understand it from their perspective and to see it from their end. I know you've been involved with many of the people. Tell us a little bit about some of those interactions.
With regard to the research and the services with the Institute, they really do have such a diverse community, and they, leading with compassion, and with your work, very well, servant leadership is really the guiding light. And so the engagement from our programs where we have author spotlights come in and speak, remarkable books, The Flip, Lois Stark, just really remarkable work and areas of thought that are on the cutting edge of spirituality and the engagement in healthcare. But they also are provocative, I think, in creating a space where compassionate conversations can be held from people from any faith tradition or no faith tradition.
And that direct service piece that I mentioned earlier that you've mentioned, it's a growing part of who we are at we call it ISH, Institute for Spirituality and Health at ISH, because now that we've gotten into that, to some of those great programs, and there's one in particular with the Houston Health Department, our partnership, and tell us about that, because you've been really involved in getting that going and making that happen. Better Together program. I love that title. Better Together program.
That's right. Thank you for introducing that. So, in partnership with the Houston Health Department, the Better Together message really is to reach out to faith institutions and faith leaders and help everyone understand that we truly are better together when we all wear the mask, when we all social distance. When we started the month of August, the positivity rate across Houston was higher than 20%. This week, our positivity rate is 6.1%. So our fine mayor proclaimed August as Better Together month last month, and is really challenging the city of Houston to drive that to below 5%. So washing hands, wearing masks, social distancing, it's really working. And so the message from the Houston Health Department is keep it up, Houston. They have put together some really wonderful materials that are free to the community. So if you have a school or a faith home and you need social media collateral, even printable materials to put up in multiple languages, English, Spanish, Vietnamese, and so on, you can go to www.protectbh.com. And again, that's where you can pick up free collateral that they've prepared. And then HoustonEmergency.org really is the best place to find a testing site. And so the overarching message is get tested, get tested, get tested. And the data has become very clear that the at-risk communities in Houston are the Hispanic community, Latinx community, and African American communities. And so we at the Institute, of course, are very focused on how we can reach those communities, and just thrilled to partner with faith leaders from across the city to do so.
That nexus between religion and health and faith and health and spirituality is one I think that the Institute has been very good at showing people how they're interconnected, interrelated, and interdependent on each other. And that spirituality and health, or religion and health, are not as separate as people have always tried to make them or think about them. And I think the Institute's work shows very clearly, and even some of the other things I want you to touch on through education research that we're doing, the plethora and breadth and length of the seminars and different things that we run all help people understand how those connect to each other. Speak to that for a little bit, if you would, please.
That's right. And so as you pointed out at the beginning, the Institute for Spirituality and Health was originally the Institute of Religion here in Houston. And it started as the first chaplaincy training program before hospitals had chaplains. And it was a tremendous success. And over the years, the opportunity to grow and change and expand has been something that the Institute has truly, I think, taken to heart and always come back to the original mission. And so during Hurricane Harvey, as an example, we worked with some community leaders, some extraordinary individuals and organizations to create the Greater Houston Healing Collaborative, where we trained over 100 people to facilitate mind-body skills coming out of the Center for Mind-Body Medicine, Dr. James Gordon's work. And so up to date, we've served over 12,000 individuals with mind-body skills. And so these facilitators have now been invited to re-engage with the Houston community in the current pandemic and the current environment and provide those skills. And so we know the power of small groups. So these would be, for example, 8 to 10 people in a small group in a series of 8 weeks. And through that time, there are these very special skills such as soft belly breathing. These skills are accessible to the community. They're teachable to children. Children will go home and teach them to their parents. And we're also providing workshops for the community. And we've done workshops with the YMCA teens. We've done workshops for female veterans in partnership with Camp Shield, and so on. And so we invite anyone in the community who feels that your community would benefit from a workshop, or anyone who thinks personally that you would love to sign up for one of these groups, to visit our website, www.spiritualityandhealth.org.
There we are. All right, on that little note, we're going to take a small pause and break, but let me just see if I can sum up the way I've done before with the Institute, because I love that we bring all this together. I think, and even in the earlier show with Dr. Squires from St. Thomas, University of St. Thomas, we can't talk about these things in separate compartments or in separate silos. I'll end with this because I think it fits where we are. It is that connection and understanding of the head, heart, and gut, to think, to feel, to act the fancy way, the cognitive, the affective, behavioral parts of our being, the past, the present, the future, yesterday, today, and tomorrow, the message, the mission, the motivation. I can go on like this for a half hour because that's really all it is. What do I think? When I stop and reflect and meditate on what I say, I think and believe about what I say and think, and therefore what action and behaviors am I called to perform? Action behaviors takes on two forms: letting go of negative behaviors and taking on positive behaviors. And so I think it really works to that end to really try to simplify this stuff sometimes, because I think we get lost in that because we get stuck. So part of this is going from the traditional to the transitional to the transformational, and making those changes that we all say we want and we seek. And in the world that we've been talking in the religious spirituality health component, it is simply at work, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. It is those things at work in our lives. And so, and those who believe or don't believe, it's all the same because it's there in one way or the other, described in different ways. But the point I'm trying to make is that we as a society have to figure out how to move the needle off of where we've been. And I'll end on this before the break. Racism is a mental health issue. Racism is a health issue. Racism is an issue that pertains to every part of our being. It is a health issue. It is a community health issue. When society is not healthy around a major issue like racism, no one is healthy, because it wears on your psyche whether you want to admit it or not. So we're going to take a small pause and break. That will be a lead into a new project we're doing at the Institute around this issue. So please stay tuned and we'll be right back.
Things could be stranger, but I don't know how. I'm going through changes, through all of the strangeness. I'm going through changes now.
Houston Community College is safe, clean, and open for learning. We're sanitizing our classrooms and reducing class sizes so you can feel good when you come back. Register now at hccs.edu/college your way.
Welcome back to this week's segment of Dialogue Houston. If you've been with us for the first part of the show, you know we're having a fascinating conversation with our good friend Leah Adams from the Institute for Spirituality and Health. And we're going to talk about a new initiative now at the Institute, one in response to the times we live in, for such a time as this, quite frankly. And that is an initiative known as reconciliation and response. And all three of those are important: race, the reconciliation part, and then how does one respond? Is to look at this clarion call that came post-George Floyd reality and the world we live in that post-George Floyd reality. And again, I mentioned spirituality and health has a big role to play in this because it is a health issue. Racism is a sickness that affects all aspects of our community and therefore all individuals, human beings who live within community one way or the other in different ways. So I'm asking Leah to talk now about how we at the Institute are beginning to look at this issue.
That's right. Thank you. So we know that George Floyd was not the most recent nor the only person who has lost their life. And we know racism is deeply ingrained across even healthcare systems. We've heard stories from, people who have trained for these amazing professions as super helpers in our society, and just simply based on the color of their skin, their training was more difficult. And so what we at the Institute are focusing on is enhancing well-being, right? Promoting integrative wholeness. And we intend to be a meeting place for all people. And so this intersection of spirituality and health really cannot exist in a world where racism exists, in that true solidarity, as you were just talking about in your earlier segment, consciousness and friendship with your neighbors and your fellow human beings, that happens in a healthy system, that happens in a healthy community, and that all starts with one healthy person that builds one healthy family. And so, as you say, for a time such as this, the Institute has launched a new area of work entitled Race, Reconciliation, and Response, which you yourself, Larry, as we are so honored, will be leading. And so I would really ask you, one of your points, you've made these amazing 12 points that we've shared with the community. One is, talks about our ability to exercise extreme empathy toward everyone in our communities and beyond. And so you gave a wonderful example in one of your earlier shows of working with the city council, I believe it was in 2017 or even earlier, where garbage workers were interested in a raise, and to facilitate empathy, correct me if I'm wrong, but you invited city council members to ride along with them on the back of those garbage trucks. And share with us how situations like that help to really promote empathy and build friendships.
That was the year is fading me now. It was during Mayor Kathy Whitmire's administration, so it was a long time ago. But it did work to the point, as you mentioned, of showing empathy, of having compassion, of sharing the common humanity of their struggle and burden. Because I can tell you, in Houston, Texas, in the middle of the summer, the back at that time, not the automated garbage trucks we have now, not the one with the wonderful little scoop and handle that takes only one driver inside the cab, an air-conditioned cab, to the lever that dumps the can. That's not what we had. We had the old trucks with the two bumpers. That's what they're called, bumpers. The two guys on the back of the truck on the left and right that pulled up to your front door and grabbed your can and physically, manually threw it in. Being on the back of a garbage truck in the middle of the summer in Houston, Texas is not where you want to be. It is a job that I don't think anybody wants, and I don't think you can pay people enough. And those garbage workers, sanitation workers, earned every penny they made and deserved every penny they made, and more and more and more and more and more. So not to honor them with the raise that was requested and demanded, and it wasn't even that significant, was just wrong on so many levels, as any way you can define wrong. So to line up the necessary votes on city council, which takes 9 votes to pass anything on city council, we were short a couple of votes. So the mayor and I decided, well, let's invite council members to ride on the back of the garbage truck. Well, when you do that, you win converts. And we won enough converts past the pay increase for the sanitation workers. And there are great pictures somewhere of all the sanitation workers protesting in front of City Hall. Kind of an interesting spectrum, because you never saw that before in Houston from particularly municipal employees and workers. But it was that thing. So it's about our common humanity. It all just boils down simply to our common humanity. How do we understand our common humanity? How do we exercise it? How do we understand, in the terms and times we live in now, how do we even understand citizenship? And I'll mention that point because it goes to the heart of the 12 things on such a time for this little list. We are stuck, and we have been stuck in understanding some citizenship in the narrow perspective of their 5 tenets of what it means to be a citizen living in a democracy. We love to talk about 2. What are those 2? My individual rights and privileges that go with being a citizen. That's great. That's the great I and me discussion, because it's all about me, right? I may say it's about you, but it's really it's all about me. What about the other 3 of the 5, which are common duties, obligations, and responsibilities to whom? The other. Define the other in our society as someone different than me, someone that does not look like me, and therefore the rub comes in. So again, it's not the either or, it's the both and. Again, it's not the understanding of who we are, but who we want to be, inclusive and holistic. It is about that we're all in this together, as we said, even in the thing, Better Together. It's all of that, but we come wanting to bring these bridges and blocks between each other. So the work that needs to be done under race is, first of all, understanding race, the history of race and racism going back to slavery, through Reconstruction, through Jim Crow, to being 3/5 of a human being only in the Constitution up to now. That's the race part. The reconciliation is almost a classic thing that South Africa did in a micro way around race and reconciliation. That you have to have the reconciliation, you have to have the understanding, the forgiveness, you have to have all of that before you can move to the next part, which is the response. So we have a lot of work to do in that area. We can do it, but we got to get away from this either or. It got to be a both and, because we're stuck on I and me. We got to get to we and us. We got to we and us. Nowhere have I read I to people. We've been stuck on not being able to understand what we to people mean, even to this day. So we got a lot of work to do there, and I applaud the staff, the board of ISH, Institute for Health Movement. Let me just say one thing about such a time as this. I'm going to turn it back to Leah. It is the understanding of the words we use when we talk about systemic racism, institutional racism. In that word is the word system. It's a systematic racism. So you have to change the system and how to change a system. You have to change what a system is. An organized body of people gathered around values, structures, and individuals. Values are defined, structures are put into place to implement systems, people are identified to maintain structures and institutions. Systemic change occurs when the values, structures, and individuals change. It's a simple process, it's an understood process, and it works. But there's the rub. It's a process that works, but you have to do each component of the process and be willing to do the transformation, to be transformative, to be held accountable, to be transparent. And those words that I just linked together, it seems to be the dirtiest words you can use with adults right now. Accountability, all those things we talk about, because in the end, they know what's the end product. The end product is change. Change, and that word change in our society demographically, change, giving up, losing something, change my privilege that I have, that I've had all these years. I don't want to do it. I don't want to give it up. I don't want to lose it. It's not a net sum game. Again, it's not an either or, it's both and. It's taking on as well as letting go of certain things. So we got a lot of work to do. It is doable. I think though, Leah, as we and I have talked and many others have talked, part of this process will involve, without a doubt, the need for that wonderful phrase, koinonia. A lot of it's going to be changing of hearts. We can do our part. We can do our contribution to this part of the dialogue, but somewhere along the line, there still has to be the other piece of work. So let me stop there. Kind of tell me if I kind of hit it on the nose in this quick kind of thing I didn't probably give justice to. I want you to talk about one last piece right quick before we run out of time. I just looked at the time, and that is this thing about resilience. We do a lot of work in building resilience to how to not just survive and cope during this time of crisis, but to thrive. Not just surviving, but to thrive through this time.
That's right. And so that's really the ultimate goal from children to adults, is to build resilience. We have direct services at the Institute for those with dementia and Alzheimer's. We want them to build resilience. We do these workshops, mind-body skills workshops with teens. We want them to build resilience. And we do that through learning how to create space. I mean, I really think you put it so beautifully, talking about the virtues in the earlier segment. It really comes down to developing the inner integrity to walk through even the hard subjects, the discomfort. And the Institute for Spirituality and Health really takes pride in being a meeting ground where people can have those conversations, where people can come and learn these skills for resilience building, and then pivot and teach them to their community, to their family. They're accessible, they're free to the community. And just let me run quickly through a few of our upcoming programs. We have—
and just for the sake of time, we have to do it very quickly. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Mindful self-compassion, nature, health, and the human spirit, meaning making at the end of life. So those are just some things that people can join, come be part of the conversation.
Right. And quickly, we have a virtual fundraising coming up. Even though it's a little ways away, got to mention it now because that's the world we're going to be living in, is this virtual reality of fundraising.
That's right. Thank you so much. So for the first time ever, the Institute will conduct an auction. And so in lieu of the traditional luncheon, we will in February of 2021 be presenting to the community some very, very wonderful and thoughtful auction items. So hearing from us, and we would love to hear from you.
And go to our website.
That's right. Go to the website, spiritualityandhealth.org.
All right. Thank you, Leah. Thank you. Thank you very much, my sister. I appreciate it very much. And everyone at ISH. We're going to continue this work, this dialogue. As you can see, there's a connection between the first segment and second segment. So we're going to build on this going forward, because I'm beginning to see more and more. COVID-19 has shown very clearly through all these Zoom things we've been doing, about zoomed out in some ways, but it's important that we have to show all the connections and how these things are related and how we develop partnerships around getting through this. And I said, not just getting through, not just surviving. The goal is to thrive, to truly thrive, change, and develop going forward in this environment. All right, we got to get out of here. I know Stephen's about to pull my chain. So until next week, we look forward to you joining us. We look forward to you being part of Dialogue Houston. As always, stay well, be safe. Until then, peace, power, and love.